Good evening, Cloud community, and welcome back to fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here at the end of day one of our 3 days of coverage at Google Cloud Next. My name's Savannah Peterson, very excited to be bringing this closing segment with Kyndryl to you. Azi and Ismail, thank you so much for being here with me tonight.
Great to be here, thank you for having us.
So exciting, this is becoming a tradition at multiple tech conferences. We had Paul on with us just at MWC earlier just a month ago in Barcelona. I've had Barry on the show last Google Cloud Next. But when you two walked up, you said that you were going to be even cooler. So
obviously.
I am super excited to hear what's going on. First of all, what's the latest with Kyndryl? I feel like everyone's coming up with a new announcement or something new and exciting out the gates. Azi, I'll start with you.
Sure. From Google perspective, we kicked off this partnership about 3 years ago. They were one of the first partnerships we announced when we split from IBM. And since then, we've been growing gradually, but in the past year alone, we've invested heavily in their AI business. And as you saw at the show today, with all the announcements, where they're taking their market, their customers, and what they're looking for their partners to achieve in that regard, I think we've built the structure to be one of their large GSIs around the world.
Go for it, I see you.
Yeah, I mean, very excited. I mean, in the theme of AI, I'm over from the UK, as you might have spotted. We actually had the Prime Minister announce Kyndryl as being a key player in the UK AI market and opening a 1,000 people hub in Liverpool. We got the Prime Minister to do that, so we're very excited about that. And actually, it opened yesterday.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Yeah, opened yesterday, so very excited about that.
Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you.
That's a really huge deal. One of the things that we're seeing in the landscape right now is collaboration unlike ever before. I think when it comes to, and I mean, you're talking about the public sector there, Kyndryl private sector, you're looking at these integrations of the biggest companies in the world, like Google, with partners on the ground actually making change, and opening up that investment and that endeavor. What you just described, that means AI isn't going to take our jobs, right?
No, actually AI will change the jobs that we do, and I think collaboration, you talk about collaboration, I think almost all large organizations now see the ecosystem as part of the competitive strategy. We certainly do, and a lot of the partners are here, and of course Google are a major partner of that. So I think the ecosystem is important, collaboration becomes critical, and no, AI won't take all our jobs.
No.
Obviously.
Well, it was a nice segue because it's something that comes up on the show a lot, obviously. And I mean, ecosystems. One of the things. So we were having a discussion about who's going to win the current technological arms race that we're in right now, for lack of a better word, and the possibility of some players that have not always sat at the top ascending because of their ability to collaborate and because of these partnerships. And I think really the key to that all is going to be the ecosystem. It is not going to be a single slice of this pie. It is going to be the folks with the right partners and with the right wherewithal and understanding and even connection to the developers and the consumers on both ends of that make this work. That's Kyndryl's bag. You guys are OG ecosystem. I know that's what we were talking about at Google Cloud Next last year. So how has the ecosystem evolved, and how has your partnership matured with that evolution? Because a lot has changed in the last year since we were at Google Cloud Next.
Yeah, so actually it came before Google. I had the rest of our ecosystem. So I had all the apps, the software, the ISVs. And the power of our ecosystem, when we bring that along with Google or any other platform that we partner with, that is the differentiator for Kyndryl. That is where we come in. We've been working with, I see over there the logos of VMware, now Broadcom, with SAP, with ServiceNow, with Oracle. We've been managing those environments for years. Sometimes we know more about those environments as customers than the customers know themselves. And now, when they go on this AI journey, we know what we can do, when, how, where, and what's the best way to de-risk these modernization, this transformation. So that's how we've been, going, partnering with Google and the rest of our ecosystem, going to our customers, showing up together to solve some of these AI problems. And one thing I'll say on AI, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's going to take away jobs. I actually think the productivity that it's going to bring to our jobs, even us, is going to make us be more relevant. We can focus on things that are important versus, the admin type, time we spend doing our jobs.
Well, it's like if you never had to do the dishes or sweep the kitchen again.
I would love it.
Yeah, you know, how lovely, or never have to do an expense report. It's those type of activities that were never enriching us as beings, outside. I try and make, I live on the beach and I try and make the sweeping activity, because it's an everyday thing, try and make it very meditative and nice, but that's not what we want to be spending our time on. That's not what anyone wants to be spending our time on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
I was just going to say, one of the earlier points you touched on was ecosystems allowing other organizations to be competitive. And I think the competitive landscape has changed forever. So some of the things that used to be barriers to entry for an organization to come and compete, like how many people you had, what markets you were in, what skills you had, disappear. Because if you can get any skills anywhere in the world and you can partner with anybody to get to any customer, suddenly you're a 3-people organization in Singapore and you can compete in the Bay Area.
Oh yeah.
If you've got the ecosystem to compete with, right? So I think this is changing the nature of who we see, in the top right quadrant as big players, and maybe we'll start to see ecosystems being mapped as to what is the competition, right?
I suspect some of those mappers are listening to this right now.
There you go, there you go.
I think you might be right on top of it, though, because it really is, we're not tackling who's going to, it's not just about silicon. It's not just about GPUs or LPUs or TPUs or any of the stuff that we're talking about, while those are all very exciting. The reality is none of this matters if we don't have the right tools and software and ability to be in the cloud and on-prem and at the edge to do all this stuff, because that's what's going to make it all real. That's what's going to make it all real for our friends, our family, our...
Deliver some outcomes for the
Yeah.
citizens or the businesses and so on, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think your example in the UK is really interesting. Love to see that partnership and investment.
Yeah.
Is that a trend that you're noticing across other municipalities and regions in terms of that concerted
so I
effort?
think there's a few things happening. One is the skills is a huge issue across countries. So the commoditization of technology skills has reversed, where it's become niche again, and it needs to be local. So the sovereign nature of assets and data and technology footprints, in the current environment becomes really important. Where is my data going to be held? Who owns the software? What is the country of origin of where the cloud is sitting? All of these things are very topical. And alongside that, where do I get my people from? Becomes really typical.
Right.
So what's happening in Liverpool, we're getting that in discussions across the world, from Mexico to the Middle East, in terms of how are we going to help build capability that we can use to build the AI businesses of the future.
You brought up something really important in a conversation we've been having a bit today, the upskilling. Again, this kind of goes to combating the fears of AI doing anything nefarious in terms of our longevity as employees, but how are you helping your customers navigate, because when we talk about infrastructure in particular, it tends to be a bit heritage. People have had core infrastructure for quite a while. Folks working on those teams have decades of experience with some of those stacks. And I'm curious, what is the conversation like from a cultural perspective when you go and deploy these new tools and systems? Azi, I'll start with you.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was in Chile earlier this year, and I met with the CIO, and he was kind of going through at one of our customers, and he was going through the evolution of his company, how in the past 20, 30 years they've become clusters of different companies through mergers and acquisitions, and he went even as far as saying, we don't even use the same domain for our email addresses. And now you're telling me AI, I can't even deal with this small thing. I don't even know what the email address is for my peer in this other country, and you want to talk to AI. So show me how I can modernize my environment. Don't talk to me about tools and gadgets and this and that. I don't care about that. Tell me how you're going to first help me transform the culture of my team, because they don't want to automate, they don't want to introduce AI. We have invested, they're Google customers, so we have invested in Google, but we don't use it because they're scared it's going to affect their jobs, they're going to be laid off and so forth. So that was his big thing. And what we did, because we as an organization went through the exact same thing when we split from IBM. We had to modernize our entire infrastructure. We also had to modernize and transform our team to think differently, to have a different culture. We have our own brand, our own culture, which is very different. It was really important to our leadership team. So I got him together with our no longer our CIO, but he used to be our CIO at the time. And I said, it's a great connection for you to see how we did it ourselves. And then we can show you how do you go from top, starting with your people. Technology is easy. Taking a hardware out and replacing with something else, that's easy. But changing the culture, changing how people view technology to make sure they actually leverage it to the best of their ability, I think that's the critical thing.
Oh yeah, pivoting, you just talked about such an important psychological moment, and I love that example. I want to hang out here for a second, but that flip from fear to joy, or even better, excitement or empowerment, and realizing, whoa, wait a second. And I love that you brought that up. It's a perfect example, because I think sometimes folks in our community, I speak lovingly to our fellow nerds, will think, well, we made this thing and it does the thing better, so why don't you just adopt the thing? And you've got frontline workers of 15,000 people saying, excuse me, we haven't actually seen the proof on how much better this last tool you may have rolled out, or this thing was, or how do we know if I do well with this new thing, I'm going to continue to progress and have my job? It starts with culture, it starts with the people, it starts with explaining that.
Yeah. And you know, I used to work with Azi, and now Azi is not there. How do I feel about 8 hours without working with Azi, right? I mean, there's it can get quite serious quite quickly. But
I told him he'll be fed up with me by end of this conference.
But if you expand this to the ambition levels, and we're talking to some governments, for example, who want to develop native AI government, and so the culture changes with the society, like everybody. Like if you want to get a driving license, it's going to be different. If you're going to get a passport, you want to go to the doctors, everything's going to be different. And so this is where, for some of the larger complex projects, that's where the discussions are starting, with the culture. Let's just assume the technology can do anything we can imagine. How are we going to get the people to use it? And there isn't an answer, unfortunately, right? I think people are working through it and trying, depending on the starting position, trying to work out what is that interface between man or woman and machine, and what does it mean when everybody has an agent walking around with them, and I'm talking to my agent who's talking to Azi's agent who's talking to Azi. What does that actually look like, and what does that mean for society? I mean, it's scary and exciting at the same time, right?
I mean, what does it mean?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Now that you're asking that question, I mean, I do love the notion, though. You know, well, there's a lot of visuals I think we can pull from, but I kind of think about it as a little buddy. Like, exactly. You know, it's my little buddy who's not only preemptively looking out for me in whatever environment I might be in, but also saying, hey, here's this information you need right now when you need it. You just got asked about this. You might not recall. Now you've got it all up. The Cube has an AI, and we index all of our videos in a really unique way that lets us refresh a bit when we're having a topical conversation or bringing a guest back on. But it's going to be like that on steroids.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting. I'm sure you talk to a lot of different customers and communities. I'm curious if you have any use cases, or even just, you can be broad if you have to for confidentiality's sake, but any of the use cases that really have you personally excited that you've started to see in the works?
So many, actually. I think, I'd go to this native AI government as the one where I think the ambition is broad. It affects everybody in their country. And it generally means that all government services are hidden. So actually, I don't need a driving license. Why do I need a driving license? You know who I am.
Right.
You know what I am. You know how I drive. I don't need a passport to come into the country, you know me, right? So a lot of stuff that we've created in terms of that needs data and identity, all of that stuff disappears. And if that happened, what would it mean to get access to services, to go see a doctor, or a doctor to come and see you based on what they know and what they know about you, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, raises lots of other questions around, you know, how do you feel about sharing that sort of data, and what do people doing with the data, and do you trust the people who have your data? But if it's the government, generally, generally the citizens would support them. So I'm quite excited, in terms of real, tangible, what I think is going to happen. It's going to change everything for that country as that goes live.
No, I think you're absolutely right. A nation of people who never have to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles again is a happy nation. As far as I'm concerned. And I do think it's interesting. I mean, facial recognition. We're all travelers. We're all international travelers very regularly. A lot of that being done with facial recognition.
That's right.
Yeah.
My only advice is to the people at Clear. I don't know if you guys use Clear.
Yeah, I use Clear.
Yes.
If they could not say, "We've finished taking pictures of your eyes," every time they do the facial recognition, it's just a little much. I feel like they could just say, like,
creepy.
they could say, "We've confirmed your identity."
Yeah.
Great.
Off
I
you
feel
go.
better about that.
Yeah.
Instead of like, geez, did I do my makeup okay? How are my eyes? I don't know. I'm used to this. I'm used to thinking about it like this. What about you, Ozzy? What are you looking excited about here? Yeah.
Well, lots. I think in all the meetings we've had with both customers and Googlers, at the end of the day, I said, now we just got to absorb and see how do we make changes internally. Even for us internally, we've seen things here that I've thought, I want that tool. That would help me do my job. And I've actually kind of done it in my team. I'm all about automation and taking away the small, tiny, irritating tasks that nobody wants to do. So when I initially took over our Google partnership, I brought in 3 people with me. One of them, I'm not going to mention her name because she's super shy, but she's a master of automation. The first thing she did, she kind of went across our business to see, okay, what is it that we do? And she started automating things. And truth be told, the rest of the team is like, oh, so what am I going to do? Now that was like 38 hours of my 40-hour week. That's all automated, gets done 30 minutes automatically. And then I started introducing new work. Okay, do this. This is a lot more productive. This actually helps you grow in your career. This is where you want to go. Now you can actually do all the things that helps you get there. So I have seen it in my own team working. Some of the technology we saw Google announce here. I would love Ismail to buy it for me.
Yeah, baby.
So I could use it, but I think there is a lot of opportunity, not just for us as Kyndryl, but also what we can do for our customers. I think that's the more exciting thing.
I have one more. I've just thought of, right?
Love this.
Because if you one of the highlights of how I spend my time is live music. So what would be ideal is if I could see a Bruce Springsteen live without having to queue up, without somebody falling asleep next to me or spilling their beer as I was walking in the comfort of my own home, with all of the visual and augmented technology.
With your own snacks and your own
beverages.
Can you believe that? Yeah.
And then when you finish, you can go to bed, I'm up for that. I think that would be really exciting. Events would be changed forever.
Yes, there is a thing called Starline that can make that happen. It's the Google technology. I think they have the demo out front.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
There's tomorrow.
I've got to go find them. I got to go find them.
All right, I have one. This is great. This is kind of building on that, and a relevant final question for you both. When we're at Google Cloud Next 2026, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't yet say today? Ismail, I'm going to start with you since you got lucky and I went that direction a few times.
Well, I was blown away this morning with the keynote and the whole agent space work and the ability to create agents, govern agents, and then put them to use in a way that we were talking about as fantasy 12 months ago. It's real. We saw it. I was blown away. And I would love to be able to say, here are 10 customers who are using this, and it changed their business, and it changed the way their employees work, their consumers interacted with them, and it's opened up a whole series of new opportunities for them, because things are moving so fast that, and I keep saying things are moving really fast, but I was shocked by what I saw today, and I hope, and I wish, and I think we will, in a year's time, get that implemented with multiple customers.
I can't wait to tell those stories right here on this stage when
you do.
That's going to be so fun. Ozzy, anything to add?
Well, I would like to do that, and then for Thomas and Sundar to invite us up on stage
there you go.
so we can talk about it. No pressure. But that's
I
what
like
I
it.
would
Love
love.
that.
I
You
like
heard
it.
it here first, folks. The preview of the Google Cloud Next 2026 keynote is happening right here on the news desk on SiliconANGLE Media and theCUBE. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
This was great, and I have to say, you're going to have to tell your Kyndryl colleagues, you raised the bar of cool one notch up.
We did say.
You
They gotta
said you were
step
going
it
to
up.
bring it, and y'all keep bringing it. We're very grateful to tell those stories.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
And we're grateful to all of you for tuning in to these 14 segments here, the first day of Google Cloud Next in Las Vegas, Nevada. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.